only wore Hitler's uniforms, but they wrapped themselves in the American flag. They preached the doctrine of racial and class hatred, for Hitler had said America could be conquered from within and fall as an overripe plum to the Nazi master race.
Direct examination.
We let them speak. When occasionally a lone outraged dissenter wanted to air his opposition, we provided police to preserve order. This was Madison Square Garden in New York City, and not Berlin nor Nuremberg. Later, this speaker was arrested. It was because he had filched money from his deluded followers, and he was sent to Sing Sing to brood upon the strange ways of democracy.
Heard quite a few hot takes over the last 24 hours about how the events in Charlottesville are the left's fault, the alt-left, as they're starting to call it. Even, you know what's funny about the alt-left label is that at least the alt-right chose that name. And it's funny how the liberal order was fine with calling the alt-right as they wanted to be called rather than they should have been called. The second that the alt-right rebranded the standard issue conservative American political movement, which has always had strains of xenophobia, strains of racism, strains of militant, violent nationalism in it, that was once the Tea Party. The Tea Party was preceded by the silent majority. The silent majority was preceded by, endless iterations of the same pro-Confederate, pro-Nazi, anti-civil rights, pro-slavery movement. The alt-right claim their own name, and it successfully changed the narrative from what they actually are, which is Nazis, to this, we're new conservatives, we're new right, we're alt-right. Now all of a sudden, liberal Democrats and conservatives are referring to Antifa, Social Democrats, and anybody who's not on board with the impending New World Order that Steve Bannon is trying to establish. They're calling us alt-left, which is, number one, not accurate, because there's nothing alternative about anti-fascism on the left. It's always been red. Proper left has always been red and black. I'm not really sure why there's anything. It's the same thing with the alt-right. The right end of the political spectrum always ends in fascism. The left end of the political spectrum always ends in communism. And then when you come back around, before you hit the absolute zero of politics on the right, you have anarcho-capitalism, and on the other end, you have anarcho-communism. So, I in response to this take that I've been hearing from a lot of classical liberal skeptic YouTubers and Twitter personalities, that Charlottesville is a response to the left, to Antifa terrorizing innocent advocates of free speech and throwing piss on them and getting bear mace in their eyes. The alt-right is a response to progress. These movements have always been a response to progress. immigrants, Italian and Irish immigrants, come in the late 19th century, and all of a sudden you got a nativist movement reacting to them with these kind of deport, ban, intern, right-wing talking points. And then, you know, those each step that either immigrants or people of color take, there's always going to be this whole white reclamation through fascism movement. So when I process the alt-right, I just process them along this very long arc of history, particularly in the United States, because, you know, look, fascism is a part of human nature. You will find all kinds of bizarre configurations of fascism that apply to different races, ethnic groups, and religion. There's Islamofascism. There are fascist dictators in African countries that are evangelical Christians. There is Duterte, the Filipino dictator, the president of the Philippines, who is engaging in a fascist holocaust against supposed drug users and drug dealers in his country. So only in America is the face of fascism always white, and that is because we are not that far from our history of legalized apartheid. The problem with the American conscience is that white supremacy and male supremacy was written into the Constitution. So you got a bunch of white boys in history class every generation who see the fundamental flaw of American governance as a virtue, which is to say, there's always a push to restore. They hide it within buzzwords about I'm a constitutionalist or a originalist, but it's all kind of the same thing. We should, in order to stem degeneracy and restore greatness to America, we need to reinstitute male white straight privilege by law. That's the narrative of the alt-right. That's the narrative of the American Nazi movement, which American Nazis are not new at all. American Nazis existed when Hitler was alive still, and when the original Nazi movement proper in Germany was going on, there were white people that supported, you know, white Americans who were German Americans and white Americans who were just standard issue Anglos, who endorsed the anti-Semitism of the Nazi regime, who endorsed the race supremacy of the Nazi regime. There was a rally in my city in 1937 in Madison Square Garden, a rally of American Nazis. It was called the German American Bund. Were they responding to Antifa beating them up? Or were they responding to SJW feminism in 1937 with their fucking Nazi rallies in Madison Square Garden? I think not. So no, the left is not to blame for the alt-right. And if you think that the alt-right being anxious about what the presidency of Barack Obama means for white people, you have a serious problem if you think that's a valid anxiety. Because what does it mean for white people? What does demographic change mean for white people? It means nothing. It means different people will, in a very superficial way, the future of America will be people who are marginally different from the people that are here now. Even if the white race disappears from North America and Europe, which will never happen. It's not even fucking plausible. Unless there's some kind of whites-only plague that wipes out the white race. There will always be white people in the West. But even, let's say, if white people become a small minority in the West, because the Kekastanis and the Nazis proper aren't fucking enough to save their race. The people that live here will still be Americans. The people that live in Europe will still be Europeans. They'll just be a different color, a different religion. You know, this kind of thing of race being associated with nation is so fucking disorienting and bizarre. The Charlottesville Nazis were screaming about blood and soil. What soil, motherfucker? What soil? This soil? This soil is not white soil. You know, if you want to bitch about reclaiming soil that's yours, then go back to Europe. But this soil belongs, America belongs to Native Americans, and the bits that don't belong to Native Americans belong to Mexicans. If you want to talk about people whose blood is in the soil, then you're talking about brown people. And if you want to talk about the people, so again, the next thing they'll go is, oh, we built this country. No, you didn't. The people who built this country are brown too, and some Chinese people that helped build the railroad. But black people built this country. Black slaves and then black workers after that built this country. And nowadays, the people that build this country are mostly Mexicans. So, as to blood and soil, again, go back to Germany, go back to Sweden, go back to England, and bitch about reclaiming your land there. But, the next time someone tells you that these Nazis are a response to, Anita Sarkeesian oppressing white men, just cite to them that American Nazis have existed for over 100 years in this country. They're definitely about to make 100 years in 2020. You know, until the skeptics can divorce themselves from existing beefs in the war against SJWs, they're going to end up being complicit in, by default, the ascent and the normalization and the mainstreaming of white nationalists and actual Nazis because they can't let go of the war on SJWs.